Hi guys, welcome to your CIMA management case study. I do hope you are all very well. So my name is Kate Williams and I am going to be your case study lead. Okay, and the reason for that is because I deal with P2 on the managerial level, and when we're dealing with our case study, P2 is the lead paper. So any general queries, guys, you can obviously get in touch with me. However, we also have an E2 element and our F2 element. Okay, so F2 is going to be covered off by the wonderful Jodie, and E2 is going to be covered by the dazzling David. Okay. We will talk more about that in our sessions, but for now, we're going to give you an overview of your case. And this overview really is just a bit of a whistle-stop tour in terms of the case that we've got for our November sitting. The way that we're going to look at this is we're going to have a look through the content and pick out the elements that we think are relevant from a P2 perspective only. So with this case, you need to kind of be doing this with a P2 hat on, then an F2 hat, then an E2 hat. And you need to be regurgitating this over and over and over again. You've got to look at all the different intricacies of this pre-scene in terms of those syllabus areas so that on the day of the exam, you're ready, prepared for what this company has to offer you, okay? So let's get into the company that we've got then. We are involved in ZedEx Office Furniture. How exciting. So office furniture, okay, whether you like it or not, is probably something that we've all been involved with in some way, shape or form. Okay, so whether you work from home, in the office, whether your office is kind of mobile, out and about, whether you're in a very modular company, whether you're hot desking, we've all had to put our bums on seats, haven't we? We've all had to file our things away and a bit of storage and some desk space. So ultimately, yes, it is a case that we could all relate to, okay, in some way, shape or form, which is excellent because some of the cases aren't always as tangible as this one, but this one I think we can really get to grips with, so it's very exciting. We have got about 26 pages, 26 pages, and we need to go through each of those and see the relevance from a P2 point of view. So that's where we're going to head to, guys. First of all, our company background. This is excellent. It kind of tells us who we are, who you are as an individual, and what it is that we're doing. It really does give you a lovely backstory to the company. So you are a finance manager, and we will speak more about your role when we get to our first day together, because it is important that you understand your role within the company. It is a privately owned furniture design and manufacturing company. So straight away, I can see that we are going to be designing and manufacturing. So from a design point of view, we're thinking about service, and from a manufacturing point of view, clearly we're making things, and obviously we have very different costing methods and costing implications when we're looking at services and we're looking at manufacturing. ZedEx then specialises in the development, production, supply and fitting of high quality office furniture. So in terms of our branding, our reputation, we are high quality, and we deal with a range of corporate clients. So we're not actually in the domestic industry at this point in time. Who knows, maybe that's an area that we're going to be looking to go into. ZedEx is located in Cordia, so this is the country that you're living in or that you're operating in, and it is a developed economy. Its currency is the Cordia dollar, so it is important that when we're dealing with our case that we do make reference to Cordia and to the K dollar itself. The company was founded in 1983, so we're, 34 years old? So we have been around for some time. We're certainly not a new company. Henry London Bartown, which is a large town in the north of Cordia, and at the start he employed 8 staff in a small workshop, producing 3 basic office furniture products. So we had desk chairs and storage cabinets. But then after 2 very successful years, he moved in 1985 to larger premises with a workforce of 15, and we have since grown into a multi-million Cordia dollar business. Okay, so we have enjoyed growth. We have then doubled our workforce. Okay, that was obviously in 1985. So in a very short amount of time, he managed to do that. So this is telling me that we've got some good investment experience, because we've gone from a very small fry business up to this multi-million dollar organisation. So we've got some experience and also dealing with growth and investment. Then what happened in 1992, we invested in a new 7.1 million purpose-built manufacturing plant on a new site close to Bartown. So this was 25 years ago, wasn't it? So I do wonder, how did we undertake that investment? Was it done based on net present value, which we obviously see within our P2 syllabus? And I would also be interested then to see the review of that and see if it's actually delivered within our expectations. So we built this plant on a new site. It was in easy access of major motorway and rail networks, so from a distribution and access point of view, very useful. New production machinery was purchased in 2010. So again, more investment here. And with our production machinery, I do wonder what kind of replacement program this might be sitting on. So from, when we think about replacing our assets, we need to think about the technique that we can use there. In doing this, it allowed for more streamlined and cost-effective production flow, as well as much lower environmental impact. So a couple of elements there that we need to think about. Obviously, we have achieved in terms of efficiency, and I'd be interested to know about learning curve in terms of how that was built in when we had our new machinery in terms of training and the labour element that's going to be involved in it. When we're thinking about flow, we might want to think about our throughput accounting. And then obviously we've got the environmental element, which brings us back onto environmental management accounting as well. Now we cover 150,000 square metres and we employ over 150 people, and we operate a showroom that's located outside of the manufacturing plant. Interestingly, the square meterage and 150 people, if we start to think about overhead apportionment, if we start to think about activity-based costing, if we start to think about activity-based management, all of these might be bases for potential existing apportionment and then obviously dealing with activities further on. In terms of the showroom itself, and still sticking on this theme about overhead apportionment, we've also got our showroom as well. So again, how are we allocating that cost into our units? So I'm not sure when you first opened this and you saw 3 paragraphs, if you thought that you could actually identify so much P2 syllabus from just within those few lines. And this first page really does give you a good sample of the kind of thing that you can be doing on every page. So now you've done that from a P2 point of view, you might want to go back over that page and start to think about the F2 areas and also your E2 areas as well. Moving on then to our mission statement, which is obviously telling us what the company is trying to achieve. It says we are committed to offering the very best in office furniture design and excellence in customer service. ZedEx's mission is focused on developing its core competencies to meet its core business principles, which are as follows: quality office furniture, highly skilled employees, investment in state-of-the-art manufacturing processes. We want to exceed customer expectations in product design, delivery, and cost through continuous improvement and customer interaction, and also to maintain focus on quality design by continuous education and learning and application of best business practices, and to maintain the highest standards of integrity in interactions with all of our stakeholders. So there's such a lot that's coming off this page, guys. From a customer service point of view straight away, I'm thinking that actually, because we're striving towards this excellence, what we need to be thinking about is how we're monitoring that. And in terms of monitoring it, we can use activity-based management, and in particular, look at customer profitability analysis, especially because we deal with corporate clients. We're likely to serve them on a repetitive basis. In terms of our core competencies then, I would be thinking here about our critical success factors and our key performance indicators. And I think it's very useful as you go through the case to try to identify any key performance indicators, such as highly skilled employees, the investment in state-of-the-art manufacturing process. What are your customer expectations? Also then things like continuous education, that's part of our innovation. And then when we think about the continuous improvement element, we're obviously then leaning straight towards total quality management as well, aren't we? When we're looking at dealing with best business practices, we are looking at benchmarking. So undertaking benchmarking processes will allow us to apply those best business practices. Okay? So through this mission statement, I would definitely be thinking about the balanced scorecard, maybe your value chain analysis, because when we talk about our processes, we need to make sure that our processes are adding value. And also then thinking about total quality management, just in time, and of course our codes and costing, which will all be linked together. So again, not many words on the page, but look how much we can take in terms of P2. We then go into the design process, and this is telling us really how we undertake our business, so what it actually typically involves. So we employ a team of office furniture design experts. Okay, so the word experts, they must obviously hold then a certain rate in terms of the labour cost, okay, because these guys have experience, knowledge and relevant qualification. And we provide a variety of services. So because we are dealing with services, we need to think about our service characteristics. These will be our corporate clients, and they include 2D, office spatial planning services, and a 3D computer-generated office visual design service, which is a now well-established practice in the furniture design industry, as 3D visualization is the best method of demonstrating to clients the optimum office layout for their particular needs. Okay, so from a competitive advantage, we need to think that we are dealing in the best methods associated. And actually, there might be things that you can go one further. I know we went to a kitchen showroom not too long ago, and we actually had modular units that we could move around and really feel what that kitchen looked like. So not just looking at it on the page, we were virtually inside this, and we could move units and move the sink all in an instant, and we could actually see what that felt like, which was great. The designers use the 3D and the 2D planning to help the client. So in terms of the software, obviously looking towards big data and information systems from a P2 point of view. And this helps clients select and optimise the layout of a wide range of furniture products from our catalogue. Each client specification is analysed to the designers by the designers to achieve the optimum layout and conformity to meet the client's needs and to meet the health and safety laws and guidelines. So from a risk point of view, okay, there is a risk that we might not meet their needs, and also there is a risk of not complying to legislation, and we have to be aware of our risks. There's also tight control of turnaround from client order to completion and installation. Okay, so that's the full process, isn't it? So there, I'm definitely thinking about the value chain to understand each aspect, and also the aspect of business process redesign to see if it actually is a very slick operation, or do we need to look at redesigning that process. So tight control of the turnaround. This is the primary objective of ZedEx. So here then we're thinking again about another key performance indicator in terms of the turnaround time. And then we've got stringent quality checks performed at each stage of the production process, always looking to minimise lead time. So again, a few things going on here. With the quality checks going on, we are thinking about total quality management. Lead times, well, again, that can be measured, can't it, on one of our key performance indicators. And also, when we look at the different stages, we can start to think about the relevant activities that are being undertaken in case we do want to utilise any activity-based management. In terms of the clients that we deal with, we do work closely with the clients, so we have very good relationships. So again, here, it's whether or not we think that customer profitability analysis is going to be very useful, because we work with them through each phase of the project, and that will massively interfere with the profit margins, won't it? So I think customer profitability analysis is something that we could definitely use as useful information in the business. We have project managers within the design team who liaise with the clients during the design phase to ensure that the layout and specification meets their needs. The project manager, so thinking about your E2 element, this project manager is very important, and it is a very common E2 element in terms of project management and project implementation. Also then liaises with the manufacturing and logistics managers through the manufacturing and delivery phases of the project and reports back. So again, I think that really is part of the total quality management that they are instilling and seeing through the whole process. Again, we can also think about the activities that are being undertaken within the processes themselves. Excuse me. Over the last 30 years, ZedEx has designed, manufactured and installed a wide range of office furniture for many corporate clients, including multinational banks, government departments, universities, retail headquarters. So we're used to dealing with a large variety of clients, and actually each client will have different objectives. And that's really important, because obviously we need to ensure that we are meeting their very specific needs. And so what we've probably gathered through a lot of this again is that relevant costing might actually be appropriate, given the fact that lots of our jobs are going to be very bespoke, okay, rather than just this general mass production of items. So it gives you examples there of things that they've done, so you can see the different spaces that they've filled. And in terms of the product portfolio, we can obviously link this with our life cycle costing. Okay, when we think about life cycle costing, we can think of it in terms of products, and we can also think about it in terms of customers. Okay, so you know, some of the products that we have might not be relevant anymore, but it is important that we have that evolving sense of product portfolio. So what have we got going on then? We've got some desking systems. So we've got a wide range of selection of desking systems, adjustable height benches. Lots of people now going for like those standing heights. Also, because people hot desk, you know, you might get a 5-foot person in one day sitting at the desk and then a 6'3" person the next day. So we need to be able to adjust those, allowing everybody to still be quite safe in their work environment. So it helps the actual client to manage their risks within their areas, because they're adhering to, you know, good health and safety laws in terms of working stations. Also looking at call centre style desking arrangements, office reception desks, so a wide range of desks. In terms of seating then, we've got a range of chairs, so you've got operator seating, executive boardroom chairs, conference seating, and then in terms of tables, we've got a wide range of the different tables available. So all very unique. Again, you know, this isn't just one product that we produce, very unique in terms of a client's needs, and we need to be tailoring to this. Also, what you could identify is that in the manufacture of some of these products, there might be a joint cost element, because actually we could, you know, if you look at the table legs here, actually those table legs might be the same as these table legs, whereas this is going to a call centre style desk, this is going into a conference room style table. The wheels on these high backed chairs that look a little bit grander than the basic chair here, again, the wheel element looks the same. So actually there might be some joint costs, and there might be some further processing decisions that we can make. Similarly then, we also produce some storage units, some huddle pods and booths, which I think are quite common and quite sassy and on trend at the moment, and also some screens which make excellent dividers, giving privacy and also splitting up the office workspace as well. So there really is a multitude of products that we offer, and those couple of pages just get you used to the kind of things that we're offering, okay? Now moving on, we've got a method statement, and this really does look at the process itself. So straight away, because we've been given a method, my first challenge would be, does it work? Does every element add value? Have we got enough technology within it to help everybody out at various stages? So in other words, do we need to automate the system? Does it need a complete overhaul? We've got a nice system there, which is good to know what's going on, but actually, do we need to overhaul that system? So we're told that from client consultation with the design team and subsequent confirmation of the order, the following activities take place. So again, we're dealing with activities. So again, can be linked into activity-based management or costing. So the design and manufacturing activities, we've got a detailed programme of work formulated by the manager covering all aspects of the project. We also have the initial drawings finalised and sent for final written approval. So at this point, we do not have an order. Okay, we don't have an order until we get the approval received from the client, and therefore, from a relevant costing point of view, I would say that the costs are sunk. Now, when the written approval is received from the client, a copy of the information is transferred Oh, sorry, I was on point 3 then, I jumped down. When the written approval is received, the product code information together with delivery requirement dates is loaded into the internal order processing system by the customer service department. I see that this is a bit of a risk to the business, both, you know, there could be an error in translation. Someone could add some bits onto themselves and just say to the client, just accept them, it doesn't matter. So yeah, there could be a whole risk element there. I don't really see why that's being duplicated. To me, if we're actually coming up with the order, it should be ordered at that point rather than having to be done again by somebody else. Once the order confirmation is raised and communicated to the client, a copy is transferred to the manager, who manages the stock requirements through the MRP planning system. So from an information system, we can see what we've got here. Again, this might lead into questions being asked about big data. We do hold stocks on site in terms of some of the components. So wondering here whether we are actually operating in a just-in-time management system or not. We do look then at the order production starting in line with the finalised and agreed delivery date, and then a quality assurance inspection takes place during every stage. So I'd really like to know how many stages that is. We have the final order being compiled, sorry, so that's your TQM quality costs. The finished order is compiled at the warehouse and the product is either stored or located. Again, I wonder about the risk there in terms of obsolescence, damage, theft. We own and operate our own fleet of 15 delivery trucks, so that's interesting, isn't it? Okay, again, what kind of replacement program are these on? Maybe it's worth actually outsourcing the delivery, who knows? Okay, there are always a number of options when it comes to your distribution. But also, again, we need to think about the investment aspects, because that's quite a significant investment to have 15 delivery trucks within the business. Then we have delivery and installation activities. So prior to the delivery, the project manager visits the client to ensure that all areas are ready for installation. So it checks various areas for being safe and clear. Okay, so this is about reducing risks of harm and damage. The number of installation staff varies, but will always be adequate to complete within the allotted time. So here I'd be thinking about what those standards look like. What are the variances? Also, what happens if we have a resource constraint? How do we deal with that? How do we deal with flexibility? Okay. How do we flex our staffing levels to cope with an increase of demand? Okay, because obviously we haven't just got installation staff sitting in the cupboard waiting to be pulled out. Any damages or shortages are reported by the installation staff, who then instigate corrective action. So again, looking at what this looks like, you know, we have to think about the external failure costs, because obviously this shouldn't be happening. Okay, these are supposed to be minimised given the fact that you've got that prevention in place with all of the quality checks in the first place. We do look at recycling where possible in terms of our packaging, so that's that environmental aspect. And once sufficient furniture for a designated area is on site, it's assembled by trained installation personnel and placed. Okay, so we need to think about the relevant skill mix in place, and also again a learning curve element, because you know, training these people up doesn't just happen instantly. We do obviously get a final inspection and then it's all closed off. So that gives you an idea of how the process works. It talks more about the service element rather than the manufacture itself. Moving on to environmental and quality management. ZedEx considers all aspects of its product's impact on the environment throughout their life cycle, from raw material selection all the way through to sustainable production methods. And that's really important, isn't it? Reducing waste and pollution. We do have to adhere to certain standards within the country that we're operating in. And again, we're obviously working towards continual improvement anyway. So there's a real link here again between TQM and also the risk elements, because we have a serious risk from a legislation point of view of not complying to any of these. We're then told about the environmental management activities, and this is really important to be able to record your environmental costs. Okay, so think about your cost of quality in terms of environmental management accounting and the information that you're given here in terms of those categories. We have a health and safety policy. So again, from a risk point of view, we have risk of non-compliance, but not only non-compliance. What if we don't give a safe environment? What if we do have accidents and illnesses? Okay, are we carrying out training to mitigate risks? So when we think of risk, we need to be assessing risks, excuse me, and we need to be managing the risks as well. Okay. Moving on to our corporate social responsibility, very much looks at your E2 element under here. We do know, though, that we've got an Environmental Protection Act in terms of looking at the requirements of the law. And what we're trying to do is exceed them. So we don't just want to meet the letter of the law, we want to exceed it. And so we're looking at assessing the risks and also taking relevant action. So as we just talked about risk, we need to think about that assessment and also the management. And when we think about the management, we think about the TARA framework: transfer, avoid, reduce or accept. We also know that our customers are our key primary objective in terms of maintaining good communications and exceeding their expectations. So we're constantly holding forums with them, and again, forms part of the TQM costs. We then have information in terms of working with suppliers who are local to the factory, helping to support local communities, also looking to reduce the fuel consumption in deliveries. However, some of the materials that we have are specialist, so they are sourced from overseas. So we've got a risk element in terms of our resources. However, from a CSR point of view, we can think about our environmental management accounting again with our fuel consumption. If we think about our balanced scorecard and we think about the relationships that we have with our community, they're all really important elements as well, aren't they? Additionally, then, we can factor in our supply chain and looking again at the values and where we're placing the emphasis for quality there. Sorry guys about the cough, I do apologise. Okay, ZedEx audits suppliers as an ongoing process. So again, making sure that the supply chain management is occurring throughout. And then we go into this chain of custody for timber suppliers. So the chain of custody for timber suppliers is quite interesting actually. The chain of custody is the unbroken path which products take from the forest to the consumer, including all stages of manufacturing, transport and distribution. The procurement of timber and wood-based items from well-managed sources is now paramount. And this is because they're more aware of the increasing demand for the product to be procured from a proven sustainable resource. So this is again, from an environmental point of view, making sure that we are being sustainable. Again, there are policies in place, so there is a risk if we don't adhere to the policies. And there's also more and more public funded bodies, corporate companies, large retailers demanding that their products are from certified well managed forests in their specifications. Therefore, we implement a chain of custody, and it needs to be something that we have from a competitive advantage point of view. So we need to ensure that we are getting our timber from a well managed source. So again, another key performance indicator to show where our supplies are coming from. There is a risk, as I say, if we don't do this, and there's a huge ethical impact as well. We then move on to a bit of numbers. So we've got some information about the market share. Okay, so the office furniture market has a high proportion of small to medium-sized businesses with two major players only, us and Riplan or Riplan, with over 40% of the market between us. So we can see here what that share looks like. The pattern is reflected in the employment figures, with the office furniture market 78% of the companies employing less than 10 people, and only 5 companies employing more than 250 people. Okay, so this is us, this is where we sit down here, ZedEx, and obviously our main competitors up there. And in terms of our workforce, we know that we went up to 15 staff, but that was some time ago. I do wonder what our staffing levels are now, and also what our retention looks like. Also, is there an issue around the skill required, and is it actually scarce, or is there an abundance for only a few jobs? I do wonder what that mix actually looks like. We then have an organisation structure, and this is really useful from a P2 point of view to start thinking about responsibility accounting. So starting to think about how the reporting might happen within the company. Where do the budgets sit? How are we broken down? Also, we can start to think about our value chain as well, can't we? So we can see from here, in terms of sales, marketing, production, finance, health and safety, the warehouse, procurement, we've got 4 managers. We could see how we could look at our value chain. We could also look at how we could benchmark internally. Because obviously we do need to think about performance, don't we? And we need to think about reviewing the performance of the individual areas. We're not really told how the responsibility is delegated down, or indeed how their cost centres and budget centres are made up. We then have information about the board of directors, which I'm going to kind of leave to E2, to David, to talk to you about, because the board of directors, you know, you're looking at any kind of governance issues there, and experience and things like that, and competitive advantage. It is worthwhile looking at who we've got. We've got Henry Lund, who's our MD and founder, Guy Vaughan, sales and marketing, Eric DeWitt, which I think is quite funny. It's got to be an anagram for something, I wonder. That's your production director. And Anna Brent, who you will hear a lot of in your case, who will be emailing you. She's clearly our finance director at 38 years old. Okay, she's been there for 8 years, and before that she's got some retail experience. She's also a non-exec on the board of 2 large cordial corporations. So she's doing well for herself, isn't she? Well done, Anna. We've then got some information about the industry itself. So we're starting to delve now into the actual performance, okay? And a lot of this might be used from a benchmarking point of view. So thinking about a benchmarking exercise, it starts to tell you about the fact it's a large industry, 8,102 companies contributing into the 1.6 billion to the country's GDP, which is up 10%. Over 250,000 jobs are dependent on the success of the future manufacturing industry. 109,000 in manufacturing, 120,000 jobs in specialist furniture. So that's interesting, isn't it? Specialist, so thinking about the skill mix and the availability. So really, we could be using this from a benchmarking point of view. We can also use it as part of our key performance indicator information to see where we're performing from an internal point of view versus the industry. The furniture industry is actually split into 3 sectors. We've got the domestic, the contract, and the office section. So we're obviously in the office area. However, the domestic and the contract, are these an opportunity for us? So are we looking at maybe investing and diversifying slightly into these areas? If so, what would we need to do? Clearly, the office element, which is what we're focusing on, is the smallest element. And that's us, isn't it? So for me, why we're not venturing into these areas is beyond me, really. Especially when you tend to see more and more people now, you know, using any kind of space to work out of as well. So, you know, I think offices are becoming more less corporate in a lot of ways, so more comfortable and maybe a little bit more domesticated, and actually lots of our home environments are becoming more corporate, if that makes sense. So there's a definite mix there, isn't there? And we could bring our expertise in. We're then broken down into the office furniture market, which has been under pressure. So we know that the industry is under pressure, adversely affected by the turmoil in global financial markets, which has led to a decline in the office construction sector and high levels of available commercial office space. We are expecting steady growth with an annual of 3 to 4% from now onwards. However, we are seeing that profits have remained low in Cordia, and it is very, very competitive. And one of the big reasons for this is this import. Okay, so lots of people are getting these cheap imports, and that represents 38% of the office furniture market. So again, I wonder, although that's a risk to us, can it also be an opportunity for us to maybe use anything like this under a different branding maybe? We don't have to. Obviously, at the moment, we're high quality, aren't we? Lots of people will have an own brand, a basic brand, so it may be something that we would want to look at from a strategy point of view. We then go on to our products. We're getting demand for smaller desks, okay, because obviously technology's changed, so we haven't got the big PCs anymore. Most people have like the smaller laptops, hot desking, less storage, less paper, less files, more people in offices though. So, you know, most people now just have a laptop, whereas years ago you'd have a big PC, a keyboard, your in tray, your out tray, but we manage now far more electronically in the digital age. Also more accessories, more integration, so lots more smart products around, you know, products talking to each other, cable management, wireless technology around the office. All of these really, really useful, aren't they? In terms of the sales then, you can see that the desk seating is the key component, not desk seating, desking system, and then the seating closely followed as a second, okay? And then the other elements, booth, screen, storage solution, far lower down. Tables then have declined dramatically, haven't they? So we saw this growth in 07, 08, 09, and I think that's a lot to do with technology. People don't need the big boardrooms anymore because the interaction is now done not really via meetings but via the internet and such digital elements. Again, it tells us here that the main growth was in the desks and the storage solutions. And we saw our rival benefiting from commercial construction boom, in that they can make standard high volume but high quality furniture. ZedEx has performed well recently due to the fact, despite its size, we can design and manufacture furniture for its clients' bespoke office solution. And that's where we're very different, aren't we? We take that more bespoke approach. Then we've got the Cordia Furniture Association. Obviously, this maintains regular dialogue with the government and other influential stakeholders to support all policies and to ensure that we're actually in that thriving furniture sector. Technical advice, guidance, operating a diverse marketplace, and really just looking at all of the different areas that we could be providing to you from a furniture point of view. Their aims, so thinking about their objectives, their KPIs, and obviously we would probably link into those, is to have long-term and prosperity for our industry, raise the profile and formulate strategies. So I imagine that we would work quite closely with the Furniture Association to make sure that, you know, we're on board with what they're doing, and as well that they're an advocate of ours, because we would want them to be. We then have a couple of pages of numbers, guys. So from a financial statement point of view, this will be gone through in detail from an F2 point of view. So to give you the heads up, you will be needing to do some ratios and submit them into JD. Things like gross profit margin, net profit margin, gearing, asset turnover, liquidity, profitability. Get all of those standard ratios done and in, and it'll give you an overview of what's happening in the business. Looking at it then, we've enjoyed some nice growth in revenue. However, the gross profit has reduced. So clearly our cost of sales has not been managed very well. In addition then, our operating profit has declined and the financial profit overall for the year has been in decline. However, without having these as gross profit margins, net profit margins, it's difficult to put context on it. So that's where you guys need to do those ratios and do that work to see exactly what's happening from a performance point of view. We can see then that our inventories have also gone up. This is a worry to me. We're holding a lot of inventory there in stock, and we've also let our receivables grow. So maybe we need to be checking out what's going on with the credit terms there. When we look at our payables, the payables has also increased. However, not by a lot, not when we consider how much our receivables and inventory's gone up by. So a little bit of a worry there in terms of that working capital cycle for us to be considering. Far more interesting then is the extracts from our account. So let me just rotate the page for you. Okay, so we can see then that we've got a management account summary. We have some actual and budget for this year, actual for last year, and then also some variances. And we've got sales, material, labour, overheads. Then we've got some more overhead costs coming in here. And then finally our operating income. So when we start to look at the differences, it's very clear that we had variances last year, that we've not necessarily changed our budget going into this year. So I wonder whether we're actually being responsive in any way. So what kind of budget process do we use at the moment? And actually, should we be looking more around Ks and costing? Should we be looking more around beyond budgeting? Okay, so we need to kind of freshen up on those areas and see, when looking at these numbers, if we think that this is appropriate. If we look at the actual versus the budget, so for example here, we would say that our sales, we've not done very well. This is adverse. We can see our adverse variance. However, when we look at it compared to last year, we have improved our sales. So this is showing the variance to last year. So what is the most relevant picture? Is it about talking about beyond budgeting, about Kaizen costing, about improvements, or is it about using the standard costing approach and just looking at what was supposed to happen and actually saying, well, we didn't do very well? Okay, so starting to think about the behavioural consequences of those decisions. We then have information about our sales. So we've got some segmented data here. Let me just again turn this page around for you. So again, we can see that we've got this risk element in terms of working capital from an inventory point of view. That does worry me. As I say, Jodie will pick up on your financial statements and go through these in quite a lot of details. Again, look, the payable days, what's happening here? You know, why are we reducing the payable days and yet increasing and decreasing the receivable days here in full effect? But actually overall, from last year, it hasn't had a very good effect, has it? We can then see what's happening in terms of our sales. So again, referring to a budget, we can see then that, you know, the desking systems are down, etc. But actually, look, these storage solutions are massively up. Okay, so is there some opportunity here? Is this where we're expecting growth? Why has this occurred? Maybe this is something that we want to be looking to repeat. Okay, so it's not always looking at good things, it's not always looking at bad things, it's looking at what's happening overall and trying to focus the business's attention to help us move forward. We've then got information about the competitor information. Okay, so we've got Riplan or Ryplan, who are our main rival, as we know, and it tells us how many units they're creating in a month and where their showrooms are. And it's important that we understand that, again, from a benchmarking point of view and in terms of the levels that we need to be generating at, are these figures that we need to be looking and having a look to see what we're delivering. We've got ARM, who are looking more at the domestic and office furniture, and they're looking at 20 to 25% growth in office furniture. That's quite a big growth, isn't it, when it's not a growth that we're seeing internally. We've then got someone who's involved in the solid wood element, who operate in franchises. Then we've got people just in office furniture who are dealing with the imports, but they've got 40 showrooms. And then we've got the moulded plastic furniture, which again is something quite different. But look, they're into partitions, workstations, and they're 50 showrooms. But from an environmental point of view, I'm not sure whether this is something that we should be going down. We've then got the extracts from Ryplan's financial statement. So we can see again, they had a significant drop in their gross profit, didn't they? And then they've actually reported a loss this year. So significant changes in their performance. And then finally, guys, we come to our articles. And in terms of our articles, this gives you a feel for the kind of thing that they might be picking up on in terms of themes. Very common to have 3 or 4 articles at this stage in our pre-seed, and then obviously to see a couple more depending on which variant you get. Talks about corruption prices first of all. So this is about payments coming in from suppliers to managers of ARM to win key contracts. Okay, obviously we are in a contract industry where we are bidding against each other for that in terms of fierce competition. There is obviously a risk of this happening there is a lot of ethics to do with this if this was found to happen within our organisation. So although this isn't something that's happened to us, it does give you an idea of the kind of thing that has been going on. They talk about a lack of internal controls and bookkeeping, etc. So it is important that we're aware of the mistakes that others have made and making sure that we have sufficient safeguards in place. It also talks then about the movement to overseas production. Okay, so there's obviously an outsourcing question needing to be raised. But what happens with outsourcing is we need to think about total quality management as well, don't we? Okay, as well as the responsibility, look at the number of jobs that are potentially lost. Okay, so we need to think then about reputation and perception in terms of being someone who likes to support the local community, as we know we do. Okay, so that's something that is very important to us, and that's something that would obviously change if we decided to go overseas. And then finally, the Nuke Showroom is opening in Cordia's capital, and that's from our biggest competitor. And this is allowing trade buyers and the general public to explore the range of furniture. Okay, so they're obviously looking at getting into a different market area, and they say that they're looking at using the foremost manufacturing techniques to deliver innovation, efficiency and affordability to a discerning audience. Okay, so also their operating times are given. So it is important that we see where we stand from a competitive point of view, and is that something that we're going to look to offer as well. Okay guys, so that gives you an overview from a P2 point of view. I'm hoping that it has given you some ideas of the P2 syllabus that you kind of need to be thinking about and dusting off. Key points then to note are things like relevant costing seems to be very appropriate, activity-based management, total quality management, investments. There are potential investment opportunities all over this case study. Environmental management accounting is very prevalent, as is value chain, balanced scorecards, and also thinking about our Kaizen costing and beyond budgeting techniques as well. Okay guys, so I hope you found that very useful, and I will see you very soon on our first session together. Any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thanks for listening.